No, it's the movie is a kind of an LA fairy tale that I was actually supposed to direct, and Tony read the script and then told me I needed to play Jack, and I said, "You're crazy," and he's not crazy. He's wonderful talent and a dear friend, and I'm just thankful to be able to show it here in Los Angeles. Thank you, Alessandro, for doing this, and I hope you like it. And here's Tony Kaye, the director, producer, and one of the great filmmakers that we have. Thank you all so much.
I want to put you in a zone, okay? A zone. And you don't have to go in the zone. It's entirely up to you. But it's an option. It's an option, okay? It's an option to go in the zone, okay? Right? So I want you to just clear your minds, right? And I want you to imagine that you're somewhere between 12 years old and 14 and a half, maybe 15. Okay? Think back into those moments when you were 12 to 15 and a half, okay? Except it's 2025, okay? It's 2025, and you're about 14 years old, okay? And you're on a bus, right? You're on a bus, okay? And you've got your iPad, or your smartphone, or your iPhone, or whatever, some phone, gadget, in one hand, and you're holding on the bus rail with the other hand, right? And the bus is going along, and you're moving with the bus, throwing people around you, talking and stuff. And all of a sudden, a movie comes on, your gadget, right? And you're not wearing headphones at the time, and maybe people say, "Can you make that quieter?" or something, or maybe put headphones on. And I want you to imagine that from your cinema seat in this beautiful, gorgeous theatre that I can't believe is part of a university, but it is. I mean, this university that is, you know, the most wonderful cinematic university on the planet. Anyway, so I want you to imagine that it's not USC, it's actually a bus. And you're holding on the bus rail and you're watching this.
That's it.
Please welcome up our guests. We have director Tony Kaye, writer, producer, star of the movie Vito Schnabel, and of course two amazing cast members, Beverly and Colleen Camp.
Colleen's here. Beverly. Where's Julie? I don't know where she is.
Hello?
All right, well, welcome. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Tell us a little bit about the nature of this collaboration. I know, Vito, you said that you were originally going to direct it, and then Tony, sort of encouraged you to be the star of the movie as well, right? Is that
Yes.
So give us a sense of when you guys first started discussing it together and how that transition happened.
Yeah, I was, I still am making a reality documentary story about a guy called Kirk Myers, the real Kirk Myers, who owns a gym. Well, he works with a gym called the Dog Pound. And Kirk introduced me to Vito, and Kirk told me that Vito was working on a story about this character, and the minute I met Vito, I had this kind of propensity to want to turn people into actors, and Vito just seemed like that perfect person that I thought could, and there was a character, there was like a ready-made. So I convinced him to act, and he's become an actor now.
So tell us about the process of kind of making the decision not to direct. What was that journey for you?
Tony said that he needed 2 weeks and with me to show me that I could do it, and he said no matter what, you learn a lot more about the story and the characters in it, but you really need to do this. And I said, I'm not your guy, and after a few days he said, do you see? I said, no, Tony, I don't, and I'm not the guy. And he said, you are, will be the biggest mistake of your life. And I had thought about it for a few days, and there's a part of me that wanted to do it. I was scared to do it. I didn't think I had any business doing it. And there's a woman named Greta Seacat who I worked with. It was an amazing film, an acting teacher, and so is her mother, who has a little scene in the movie, who passed away since then. This is actually the last movie that she was in. And she had told me that I should play the guy a while ago, and I didn't really think much of it. And then I called her, and she's like, "Yeah, I fucking told you should do it." And then I trusted Tony, and I believed him, and he felt familial and familiar, and I felt like I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't do it. So I just kind of jumped,
This film is so kinetic and so visual that I'm really curious to know what this looked like as a script. How much was there openness? You've got a lot of people playing themselves or versions of themselves. Every role is essentially cast with someone amazing in it. So tell us a little bit about what that looked like in the script when the two of you, Colleen and Beverly, when you first read it. How close to the film that you just watched did the script look like?
I've never seen it before. So I'm processing this with everybody. And I want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to tell you what a pleasure it is to be here, first of all. Because I knew that with this film, to watch it with film students and people that care about cinema, it was absolutely the perfect place to be able to see all of the combination of skills and feelings and technical expertise and spontaneity. I read the script. It was a very, like a 3-act script. And then I saw that, I'd worked with Tony a lot of different times, but never on this level of improvisation. And he's a cinematographer, and he's got that camera, and he's got that eye. So as I said, I'm just processing it, and also I've got this horrible sty, so I can't even see. But I saw this movie, and was just stunned to take everything in. I watched Vito with my heart beating. It was such a pure and beautiful performance and a complete deliverance, knowing how it was shot, of the way that Tony captured his purity and his authenticity and his drive. And I think it achieved like this metaphor of commercialism and kind of, is it okay to lie? Is it not okay to lie? Does the end justify the means? Doesn't it? But that's like my brain. You'd have to ask the filmmakers what their intention was there. But as far as shooting it, it was very, for me, at least the time that I was there, it was very free form. I had an idea, but my thing when I entered into this was, I thought in terms of, who was the mother that resulted in this person's drive and desire. So I shaped myself around that, really.
Colleen, what was the experience of reading the script for you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say this is the second time I've seen the film in the theater, and I agree with Beverly.
It's a beautiful theater, by
It's
the
a
way.
great theater. I think that in terms of reading the script, it was really that Vito and Tony I think Tony is a genius. I think he's one of the most brilliant directors, and he's a visionary. And what I was so impressed about with Vito, who wrote, I thought, an incredible script, and I think it's so topical. I think it's really unusual, and I think it's a movie that hits the times. And I thought Vito was brilliant in the film, and seeing it again, I think the movie's hilarious, but it's also at the same time, it's totally original. It's very provocative. I mean,
Art.
I mean, Larry David would love this film. I mean, he would really understand it because it's so real. The characters are so real, and really, basically, what happened with me was that Tony said, "I want you to play this CEO of a company," and when I got on set, Stephen Dorff said, "I think you should be my mother." I said, "Okay, that's great." So I said, "I'm glad we're 15 years apart." I said, "Of course," and I ended up being his mother. But what's very funny, and the genius of Tony Kaye, the character had a huge monologue. I had just come back from the Cayman Islands. I was exhausted. I did all my coverage, and then I fell asleep on that couch, really. I was actually sound asleep. And I heard kind of like in my dream state, "Use it!" And Stephen Dorff said, "But wait, she has a monologue." And he says, "Use it!" And the next thing I know is that he says, "Well, you say my mother would have said, but what's hilarious is you literally cut in, I'm saying hello, and then I'm sound asleep." I was sound asleep. And I actually woke up in the scene. So that was not the actual part, is Tony, and I thought, how brilliant. And then when I saw Vito, he was so sexy and gorgeous and pure and amazing. And I said, I looked at him, I held his hand in the scene. And I just had to hold his hand. So to me, it was a dream come true, and a dream come true. And Tony, and at one point I want to say one more thing because it's really funny. I said to Tony said, "I really want Mark Wahlberg in it." So I FaceTime Mark Wahlberg. We're in the middle of the scene, and Gina Gershon is speaking. I said, "Wait, it's Mark." I said, "Tony, quick!" He said, she said, "What are you doing? We're in the middle of the scene." And I was like, almost like a junior person. I just thought it was an amazing experience. Beverly's a genius. I was so happy to be even involved on any level, and to see an actress like Beverly. Vito, I think it's off the charts. Tony, I've seen the movie again. This is really unusual. This is a movie that can be studied. I'm not kidding you. And I've done a lot of movies, but this movie is really an original, and you've done an amazing job.
You know, when I was watching it, I kept thinking, like, I wonder what this would look like in 10 years. I feel it's very current. There's something underneath it that's speaking to something that's very, very present in our culture right now. I think it's so beautiful too. It's just
what I think is fascinating is that Tony keeps talking about people watching it on a phone on a bus, when I want to see it on a screen like this, loud and beautiful and colorful.
Yes. I'm not saying I don't. You know, I tried to play it as an IMAX. You know that. I was testing it on your IMAX. The reason I said that at the beginning, and the reason I had it in my mind, that I wanted it to be. I was making it for a 14-year-old kid to watch. Actually, there is a Geo is here somewhere. He's about 10 or something. I don't know. For him to watch on the bus. I wanted it for a kid to watch on a bus, a rickety bus on a gadget. And I went to about 20 different art schools, not for very long, but I went to them. And I learned one of the things I learned from going through that process was that if it works on a matchbox, it will work anywhere. So I felt that, well, if I could get it right on the little gadget, it will work out. And it does really, when you watch this about this size, it really compactifies
You know,
things.
Tony, as I was watching it, I remember, because you had said that to me, and you absolutely hit, if that was your aim, you totally hit the mark.
Yeah,
The extreme
and
close-ups and
yeah,
the kineticism of it.
Yeah.
You did it. You absolutely hit that mark.
Thank you. And the other thing that the other sort of a carrot that was dangling in front of my kind of donkey face was the or rabbit. Who eats carrots? Rabbits or donkeys? Anyway, whoever. Camels. Yeah. So it was there was a shopping network. There was a character that was trying to get on the shopping network, and I had this shopping network in my mind, and I wanted the whole movie to feel like the vernacular of a shopping network, and this shopping network, to work in neuronic spasms on this kind of shaky bus. I hope that was a little enlightening.
Well, there's so much that you're doing visually that I'm curious if you can take us into your process, because obviously some stuff is pure cinematography. You're using the camera kinetically, but sometimes you're slowing things down, gorgeous slow motion sometimes. You're also doing a lot of effects. There's some 3D stuff in there too. When you have the scene shot, what do you then do with it in the editing room to kind of come up with each unique look?
Well, I'm working with the actors and actresses, and that's my prime. My prime. I'm trying to get performances, and I think Beverly is amazing and Colleen is amazing in their thing. But I think what Vito does is to me he plays his character literally like nobody else could have done. There's nobody else that could have played that role. And because here I was meeting a kind of a guru of the art world, somebody that I had tracked for a number of years, who works at a very high level with beautiful works of art in varying capacities, and he was out there trying to hawk this kind of gadget. So the acting is really the most important thing for me. But as I'm working and as I'm on the camera, and it's kind of one less person to have an argument with, because it's not a director of photography. It's not that I have arguments, but people arguing with me, I don't really argue back. But anyway, I see things. I see things and I take things in, and I build things, and then I work with amazing editors, and I let them go to work, and I encourage them to come up with things, and they come up with things like I work with actors, or so everybody comes up with things. And then I always knew that I wanted this layer, this other onion layer on top of it. And I found two fantastic people, a guy called Jan Hirschbuhl and Jeff Knowles, who I work with, and they did a lot of the design and visual effects and visuals. And I took them on many trips in London to graphic novel stores, and I was showing them, so I had it in my mind. I would have gone further, but I didn't in the end. But it was always in my mind. And the amazing thing about working with Vito was that we worked very closely. Is that he as long as he felt he was okay and he was comfortable, I could do pretty much what I wanted to do. And I have had this movie, this kind of movie in my mind for a number of years, and I'm glad I exorcised it, And as I say, I think primarily it's a performance, and it's an incredible one, a really incredible one. And I think, Beverly and Colleen could talk about this a little bit more, but to really understand the craft of acting, there's a really deep, you've got to have you've got to really, so, what am I saying? I'm saying that it's a performance. Whatever I'm, blah, blah, blahing upon on the techniques and all this kind of stuff, in the end, it's a performance. It's an acting performance. And I will say this, and, and everyone out there, you can think about this when it comes to Academy Awards time. And when you look at whoever's nominated for best actor, take a really good look. Take a really good look and really analyse, this performance, because I don't think people, I've really had an incredible opportunity to sit with Marlon Marlon Brando, you know, for months and months on end, and just talk to this guy. And that was always when I came to the United States of America, my purpose to come, the reason I wanted to come to America is to work with American actors and actresses, because I just felt that American actors and actresses understood the camera. You know, I don't tell actors what to do, I just empty them out and let them go, you know, and encourage them to do more. Just, you know, okay, more, louder, stuff like that, faster stuff. And I had this opportunity, you know, I came to look for American actors, but I came to work with Marlon, and I did work with him, although not in an orthodox manner. But we did work together for many months, for a number of years, and you know, it was interesting that when I met Vito, that he you know, his name. And he keeps going to fancy dress parties as the Godfather, and anyway, there's a lot of you know, symmetry, kind of cosmic symmetry that brought the connection, and this movie occurred, you know, and it's still you know, I mean, it's a crazy thing, you know.
Well, Vito, your performance has all of these different layers that are really necessary, I think, in order to sort of sell this character. That you have to be confident and vulnerable, you have to be charming and annoying. You know, it's like a lot of different things that are sort of dependent on who you're interacting with. And I'd just love to know what helped you get to that performance, considering that you were very apprehensive.
And
about
he's not
being
that
an actor.
person. He's really not that person, you know.
When I was working on it, I was trying to be a kind of 14-year-old kid in a 35-year-old's body, and I don't know, which gave some room to be really playful and maybe not totally emotionally evolved. And Greta, Tony helped me get there, but it was, I don't know, he wants this thing so badly, you know, but he doesn't really know how to go about it the right way. And, or maybe he does, but I like that he finally tells the truth at the end at the worst time, but there's no wrong time to tell the truth. Yeah, it was you know, a real experience, and one of the best experiences of my life, besides meeting my wife, which was number one. And you know, thank God for Tony, really, because I've never done it without him.
1 second, Dan, if you're up there, there's a little bit of a ring on the mics that just started happening. If you could bring it down just a little bit.
I think it was the bottom right.
Some of your best scenes are with Julia, who's really great in this movie.
She is amazing.
Tell us a little bit about that casting choice, and you know what the rehearsal, if like.
Yeah, I just wanted her. I was leaving my house one day, and I just said, I called Vito up, and I said, I was about to run around the block or walk around the block. And I called Vito up, and just as I was getting to my gate, I said, we got to get Julia Fox, because she was wrong. She was the wrong person. And I just thought she was funny, but she wasn't supposed to be funny, you know. And I literally got 8 houses down the road, and he called me back and he says, okay, we got Julia Fox. So that's what happened. Maybe it was 12.
We grew up in New York
Maybe
together,
it was
so
12. Maybe it was 12 houses.
Well, no, I think it was like 20 minutes, and she picked up right away. And yeah, we grew up in New York together and have a nice friendship. And told her about Tony and what we wanted to do, and she said yes before reading the script. I said you probably should read it because you might hate it, but she's amazing in it. And I think also one of the things that I learned going through this process is really being able to tap into memories and then trying to unlock those feelings that you've had in that moment, and then applying them to whatever you're doing in that moment, you know, and that was therapeutic.
You guys obviously did an amazing job opening the Rolodex for all of the cameos. I mean, I'm still blown away that you have one from Ai Weiwei, but it's you know, in some cases I mean, all the way up to Lenny playing such a big role in the movie. Tell us about some of the philosophy there. Like, you're like, well, I think we could get this person to do this, but then actually, like, letting him play a sort of version of himself, you know, throughout the movie is a lot of fun, because it's more than just a cameo.
Yeah, well, Lenny was in there. He was one of the earliest characters. We always wanted him, but he didn't want to do it because he was going to go on tour, and we shot in the middle of COVID. And he said no, but we don't like taking no for an answer. And then Tony came up with the genius idea of saying, tell him we'll shoot it at his house with a skeleton crew, and we will go to the Bahamas where he is. And he won't be able to say no. And I pitched it to him, and he said, you know, you guys are crazy. And I said, but is it a yes? And he agreed to it, obviously. And he's so amazing, and he's so funny. And he's never really seen him like that before. But he did a great job.
What was there anyone else that you really pursued strongly to get in the film?
Yeah, we were still trying to get Brad Pitt.
Oh, right, he's in the credits. That's funny. So when that's were these roles sort of kind of written for insert such and such a person in the script, or did you come up with them once you knew who could do it?
Lenny was. Paris Hilton came in at the last second. We were shooting that scene in the park, still looking for that person, and somehow she came out of nowhere and just said yes immediately and showed up and, you know, did what she did, which I think she did such a good job.
She didn't show up, actually.
Yeah, that's
She didn't show up,
the first day she didn't show up.
I had a cardboard cutout of Paris made, and Vito got annoyed about that, and I got annoyed at Vito for getting annoyed, and Beverly calmed everything down.
You want to tell us about
Should I
that?
tell what really happened?
Sure.
Well, okay. There was a scene in the bar. Actually, I was going to ask Vito a question. And my question with Vito is, what about when you think of the script that you wrote, obviously you had something in mind, and I'm just really curious about what your experience was in the actual shooting, because we did shoot it in this really a very unusual way. I worked with John Cassavetes. I worked with Milos Forman. Hair was all improvised except for the songs. And John is John, but may he rest in peace. But this was highly improvised, you know. The scene. So I'm curious about, that's something that I wanted to know from you, and I was going to ask you outside, but we had to say hi to too many people. But the thing that he's talking about is we were in the bar area of the Roosevelt Hotel, and it's the scene where there are cuts taken from that scene that you see in other places in the film, where you see Vito's head, like very Christ-like, leaning against a kind of yellow stucco wall with a little bit of a candelabra. That was a wall in the bar that we shot in, where Vito's there. It's where Julia, who's magnificent, confronts Vito with the fact that she knows he's been lying, or has he been lying, and what does everything mean? And it's this huge scene where everybody goes, there's incredible visuals with the wine flying all over the place, and cuts to this and that, and different lighting. You know how the lighting varied from like hyper real to shadowed and blue, and there's all kinds of atmosphere going on. But what was happening on the day was, we're in a bar, and I walked in, and Vito had a cup this big, and he was drinking, and I said, wait, let me taste it. And it was alcohol, and I said, you don't need to be drunk. You can act drunk. But anyway, he went for it, and at a certain point, Paris Hilton was supposed to be there, but she didn't show up, and Tony got a cardboard replica of her or something, and thought, well, that would be okay. But Vito, had been, again, was an actor that worked every single day on where, you know, just from my experience, you get to the set, and Tony would create an entire atmosphere that then you entered into as an actor, you know, with your own motivations, but also, you know, a larger responsibility. So he's now looking at this cardboard thing. And we were looking at it, and I remember Steve Van Zandt was saying, I need lines, I can't do this, I gotta have written lines. I'm going, no, it's cool, just be free, it's cool, you'll see. And then suddenly, while I'm talking to him, I hear this big explosion, and Vito, in utter frustration, I thought, had kicked over the cardboard cutout of Paris, and Tony went nuts and wanted to call the Directors Guild. And he said, I'm the director. I said, you're just an actor, you're nothing, you can't, this is, you know, I'm using this, and it was like a big, huge thing, and Tony was running around saying, you know, I'm calling the Directors Guild, or there was something was gonna happen. Bella and I went out and smoked a bunch of cigarettes.
Basically, I'd taken a lot of time to write that, and it was
Here's something about the Directors Guild never had a phone call.
too bad we
They never had a
didn't
phone
film
call.
and so when I saw this cut out of Paris Hilton in this kind of important scene in the movie, it felt and it was a good idea, but it felt it wasn't what I wanted. So I guess I took the cut out and I threw it across the room.
That's right.
Oh, what did I do?
Whack it as well.
That's a story we're
I
not going
think
to tell
Tony
you.
likes chaos. I think he likes that atmosphere. I think that in a way, it's like the Greeks said it. The Greeks called the time before there was order chaos. That was the definition of the word. And that it was out of chaos that the world was formed. And I think that that's a good analogy for art, and I think that Tony does that he can somehow, out of chaotic elements, of things that we would call chaotic, and I'm not using that in the pejorative term. I'm talking about the chaos of unrelated things that don't appear to have logic or meaning as a whole. But Tony has this ability, because again, he's got that camera on his shoulder. And you should see him when he directs. He's like, I need a light over there, I need a light over there, give me this, give me that. And he's got people following around with different cameras and different lenses and all this kind of stuff. He works very, very rapidly, but it's a direct like brain through the eye through the camera. And I've seen him do this repeatedly, because I have worked with him a lot, where he will pull all these things out of this atmosphere where everybody is really in a hyper state of awareness, because familiar bearings of filmmaking are no longer there and are not relevant. And I think it's always good as an artist to place yourself, you know, out of what's familiar. There's a great musician who's gone, nobody remember, but anyway, Jim Stein was a great music. He wrote all that music for Meatloaf. Remember Meatloaf, that kind of operatic rock and roll stuff? Anyway, he was from the theater, and he would write on an instrument that he didn't know how to play, because he knew that if he sat at the piano, which was what he played, that his hands would do certain things. And I think that Tony has a way that I've observed now in several films of creating something that is so unusual that it really heightens the awareness of the actor, and it really pulls you into that state of like, wait, what is important to me right now in this very moment to say or do or be? It really brings you to the moment. That was my experience. But yeah.
Colleen, did you experience something similar in that sense?
Well, for me, I have to say, it was a really unusual experience, because I've been wanting to work with Tony for a long time. And what really surprised me about Vito is, as Beverly said and as Tony said, he's a very renowned artist, art dealer, very successful, and
He's an honest person.
and he was so shocking to me that he inhabited that character. He's like the antithesis of what's on screen, and so it was really exciting as an actor to just work with somebody that was so pure, and it was fun. And Stephen Dorff to me was hilarious because he's so intense. And so he's very funny because he's very intense. He completely takes himself seriously. And because he takes himself so seriously, it's hilarious. He's very, very bothered by anything, Colleen's asleep, this is not professional. I mean, and so that's
Really, some of your best friends.
it's just, it was unbelievable. I couldn't even happen to sleeping. It's just a monologue. But I thought it was so genius that not only did Tony go with that, but it really enraged Stephen. And then, not enraged Stephen, but Vito was like, I just looked at him. I was so excited. I just held his hand. I looked at him. I did the growl, anything. It was like, it was so much fun because it was very freeing. It was freeing because it was really the whole monologue, which anybody would have loved to have a 2-page monologue. I was much happier being in a situation where it was asleep, spontaneous, odd, waking up.
Did you shoot the monologue?
Yes,
I didn't see a lot of
no,
stuff.
no. And so the funny thing is, I did the whole coverage on it, and then on Stephen's coverage, I was sound asleep. That's not a normal thing to do with another actor. But and I thought it was funny when Tony said to Stephen, "Just say if my mother was awake, she'd say this." No, to me that's catnip. But because Stephen had prepared it in a certain way, Tony brilliantly just kind of bypassed all that and then just started when I woke up. That to me is inspired. I think what Beverly said is that Tony does things in a certain way. Like, I can imagine how enraged Vito was when he took a cutout.
Well, it was this huge climactic scene in this time. Vito shows up there, it's like 8 in the morning, he's going for it, he's got the alcohol. He's got the head state. He knows everything that's going to happen.
Wait a second, I love you. No, it was 3 in the morning. It was 3 in the morning.
Was it 3 in the morning? What's
Yeah,
the
no, it's okay. Just I wasn't waking up totally.
What did you do with? I wanted to.
It was
ask
our
you-
only. It was the only day we went overtime. We had a 17-hour day that day.
Yeah, but you had talked about this in the very beginning about working with CCAT, and so how did you work? Were you working with her during the shooting, or did you do that after, before, what?
Before for a few months.
Did you?
Yes, it was amazing.
How did you translate that then into what your script became?
I think what I was saying about just the way she works and unlocking these different memories or moments in your life, and then
Did she do the dream
We did a lot of dream work
too?
and
Do you
then-
know about that? CCAT's dream work? Do you want to know?
Yes.
She will have you ask for a dream to use in order to, I hope I get this right, to explore a facet of the scene that you're going to work on. So if you've got a scene or scenes the following day, you ask for a dream about those circumstances, and then you have something, to call. Did you do dream work on this?
Yeah, every a night when we were preparing to go into the workshop. So you ask, dear self, please give to me, if it's your will, give to me in a dream tonight my relationship with whichever character, and then you might have a dream, and then she breaks it down, and it unlocks different ways of going about things, different situations.
The film that you the work that you followed this with, in Van Zant's Capote's Feud, did you have residue from this huge thing? Because this was 10 years. You wrote that 10 years ago. You brought it all the way forward, and then you went to a kind of a traditional format. Did you take something from this into that? Because you were great in that too.
Thank you.
Really
You're
good.
so
I
great. You're so
texted you.
sweet. Thank you for all your nice compliments. Yes, I did. It was very different than shooting with Tony, but it was, Gus is a friend and I represent him as a painter. And actually we shot that, and I met Ryan Murphy at the Dog Pound, and then he came up to me. I mean, the Dog Pound is like... And
He's brilliant.
Yeah, and so, it definitely helped getting a little experience under my belt with Tony and being able to go there.
Yeah.
And, it was a different experience.
It's just
but it was
you're so great. Your purity, your everything came through, and having just experienced, it's such a revolutionary project, this movie. It really does push edges of what the cinematic experience is. And I want to say it again, that if Tony's aim was to make something that you could watch and be affected by on a phone, he did it. He absolutely did it, and I want to watch it on a small format because of that. But I think that he's really pushed the boundaries of everything so much that I'm just kind of waking up now, thinking of it. But the purity of your character and what you brought to that just sings above all of the other stuff too. And Julia's magnificent. That relationship is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. The love story, Tony.
So I want to open up some space for you guys to ask questions, but because the room's pretty large, we have a microphone on a stand over here, and it would just help if you could use the microphone so that everyone in the back can hear. So if anyone wants to jump in, just come on up to the mic. And while while you're lining up, I just want to quickly ask, what's the future of the film for the time being? Where does it go from here?
We're in the middle of a few conversations and figuring out where it will live, so it can be seen. And we should know a lot in the next few weeks. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Luke. I love the movie. I was fascinated by it, and I'm really interested in how, obviously, this is a very propulsive, all over, kind of visually aggressive movie. And I'm interested in how you went about in some of these set piece scenes, deciding where you wanted to put the camera. Would you be like, oh, that actor just right, what if I was right here? And just kind of, was it also very improvisational with the camera, how you chose that? Or did you have some mapped out sequences of how you wanted to play?
I have a program, a program of shots that I know I will need when I work with an editor. We need shots. We need certain shots, and those shots. It's very simple, basic. When I first started directing, I started directing TV commercials in about, I don't know when it was, 1981 or something. And I went out and bought how to make a movie book, home movie. Then you put the camera there, you get a close up, and then you do an over the shoulder, then you do a wide shot. So you need the proverbial over the shoulders, wide shots, close up shots, and then various things. But because I'm directing and I'm shooting and I'm talking to actors in front of actresses in front of the camera, I'm noticing nuances, and the camera is always alive. It's a character, and it's not the shots are never there's no demarcation. I don't block anything. I just let actors and actresses do their thing, and I follow them, and I know how to get all the coverage that we'll need in an editing situation, and I work very, very fast.
Did you go back and shoot more stuff? Because it seemed, I remember talking to you, you were shooting forever.
Well, when I first started talking to Vito about doing the role, I said to him, look, when we were working out the budgets and stuff, I said, okay, so we'll do 30 days with everybody, and then I want a further, I asked him for 80 days up front, extra days to just get close-ups of you and you doing things. We never did that in the end, but we did a lot. But,
how long did you shoot this altogether?
I think altogether it was over 50. It was over 50
50 days.
It was
Yeah.
over 50 days, yeah.
But not in sequence. Didn't you take breaks and stuff?
No, not really. I mean, we shot everything, most of the stuff in sequence, and then we had to go.
I remember at one point you guys FaceTimed me from, how do you pronounce it? Urethra? Eleuthera.
Yeah, that
You
was the name.
FaceTimed me from Eleuthera,
Right.
and he was just acting. I didn't know what was happening, but I just
Right.
went for it. I
Right.
remember that. It was from
Yeah.
you were down there. There were so many. It's all coming back to me. Yeah, 50 days is a
That-
long
Does
time.
that help? You know?
Yeah, that was really what I
So
was
the camera is a character in the scene. All the cameras. I only shoot mostly with like one camera at a time.
Yeah, because I'm just watching like all of the focus racks and zooms and things that you're doing in every scene. It's
Yeah,
so fun.
yeah. I do. Well, my focus puller was absolutely amazing. Actually,
Yeah.
on this, I really felt. I mean, I sometimes pull focus myself, but on this movie, I didn't. I hardly did it at all. I had this incredible. I could go anywhere, and it was always sharp. But the glass of the lens is a face. It's a character, and it's in the scene. The camera's in the scene. It's another character. So it's always alive.
Thank you.
And I do think, going back to this idea of the small screen, the intimacy that you feel watching in a big screen is really interesting too. You know, when it's a smaller thing, I want to watch it as a smaller thing because I think it'll feel different. But
Well, it's just tighter. And it's just
extreme
sharper, and the colours.
close-ups. What?
It's just sharp. You know, the more reduced in size,
Yeah.
you know, the less noise, the less grain.
But also the color. Did you do a lot of like? Some of those scenes were very, very saturated.
Well, I
You know.
use coloured lights occasionally, but I
remember
but I
coloured
crunch
lights.
the blacks. Yeah, I contrast things.
A lot in post. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Interesting, really interesting.
Mm.
And it's weird because to me, there were some of the contrast that you put in certain places was very intriguing to me because it superimposed a kind of reality as well as the extreme close-ups.
Mhm.
Gave for me gave a reality to
Immediacy, a truth.
but very, very real to this
Truth.
totally fantastical
Yeah.
story. You know, I think that
Made
the
real.
extreme close-ups and you could see pores made it,
Yeah.
gave it a reality that
Yeah.
it wouldn't otherwise have had. That 35 millimeter couldn't have done.
Do you want to ask a question?
Hello, my name is Aiden. This question I have is a little bit more on the personal side, so just for a little bit of context. I actually just graduated this year. I study cinema and television arts. My main focus is directing, but I do also love acting. I love lighting, cinematography. I actually, generally for me, I love working on all ends of film, whether it's, writing, working on camera, being the best boy, lighting, grip, electronic, or, color grading. I love working just film generally, getting my hands dirty anywhere I can. So, just a question for all of you guys. What would you guys say what would your guys' 2 cents would be for someone like me, because for me, I want to pursue directing, but if I could pursue acting as well, that would be great, because I feel like those are kind of my 2 main focuses, but like I said, I'm just kind of an open guy. I like working anywhere, but what would your guys' advice be?
Where did you graduate from?
Cal State Fullerton.
Well, what is that again? Captain what?
California State
Oh,
University
I
of Fullerton.
see. Well, why don't you make a short film where you do everything? Where you have an iPad and you write it and you direct it and you're every character. And you just look at it afterwards and think, what is that?
That's great.
I think there's 2 things you can do. My daughter, who's really talented, she's in the Groundlings, but she also loves writing. And she didn't go to film school, but what she did is she did a short. Just like Tony suggested, she decided not to be in the short, but she put one of her friends that was in the Groundlings in the short. And it was really a great thing. She got them, it didn't cost much. She put it together, and I think it's smart what he just said about doing a short. And you can also, I just saw a movie that came out recently, a movie called Twinless. And the director wrote the part for himself. He directed it, put himself in it. And I think that's a smart thing. If you look at the Safdie brothers movie, Good Time, I think Benny Safdie wanted to be in the film, so he made sure he had that part in the film. But and that movie I think cost about $800,000, and they did every aspect of it. They did the music, they did the cinematography, they did, and Tony's done this kind of thing for years. He did a movie called Detachment, which was really brilliant, but I think, from my advice from an acting point of view, I think he's right. If you do a short, put yourself in the short. And I think that that's what the actress from Girls, I think she did a little movie called Tiny Furniture. I think it cost $50,000. She put herself in the film. She filmed it at her parents' house. And so she was a writer, director. But I also think, and I'll add one thing to that, is that Gary Getzman, who's a very big producer, he's Tom Hanks' producing partner, but he started doing everything, whether it was music supervising, whether it was props. He just wanted to be on a set, having every experience on that set. And then if you look at the history of his career, it's very interesting. You'll see him on certain films as music supervisor, best boy, props. I mean, and then he just immersed himself into just understanding every aspect of a film. And I can tell you, I was in a movie in 1975, and this was after Sissy Spacek did Badlands and Carrie, and her husband was the production designer, Jack Fisk, and she and Bill Paxton did the props on the film. And there was no preciousness. I mean, she'd already starred in 2 big movies.
She was really
Yeah, and so she just did the props on the film, and I'm sitting here with Sissy Spacek and Bill Paxton doing props on the movie that I was actually.
She was a painter.
Yeah, so,
Jack was the set designer.
so isn't that
Jack.
interesting? So I think you can do every aspect of something. I know that's a long answer.
I was gonna say, if you said 2 things, and what came to my mind is, first of all, it's about desire. You have to really stay very, very close to your desire. Without desire, you have nothing. You have to stay very, very close to your desire, your true desire of what it is. And the thing is, it's unexplainable, this desire to express oneself. If you could put it into words, you wouldn't make movies or paint pictures or write songs or do anything, It has to be manifested. But that's a good thing to stay close to and not get cluttered up with all the information that you get about what you're supposed to be doing with it. But I think a profound thing to remember is it is, of all the arts, collaborative. Everybody is very interdependent on everybody else. And unfortunately and fortunately, it's very relationship driven.
Mm-hmm.
And people with a lesser talent might get farther than someone with a great talent simply because they're always a sunny day at the park, or they say the right things at the right place, or they show up here or show up there. They have, 5.5 million followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a true thing. And so I would say on a very, very practical level, intern, go everywhere you can to offer whatever service you can. Because as you said, you've had experience in electrical, so you could say, I'll be a best boy. Crafts or anything, just to get in that community. I can't tell you how many people I've been meeting in the past. I did like 4 films in the past, all independent. And I can't tell you how many people I've been meeting on sets where, a guy's an exec producer on one thing, but he's actually a director. Or the PA is someone who's he just graduated, he just has got a degree in cinematography. There's a lot of movement happening now, there's a lot of changes going on. And to find your community, you do have to go looking to find the community. But we're all dependent on it,
Mm-hmm.
I think. That's just practical advice. I'm bad at it. I'm not a careerist, but I know that that's what you need to do.
Thank you.